Have you ever wanted to build your own guitar? Have you ever wanted to put a Partscaster together that's better than a Fender custom shop? Me too. Never achieved it though. In today's episode, we're going to be drawing on John's knowledge of guitars to figure out if I made a mistake or I made a Telecaster. And today, my co-host is
John Mulholland. Just to remind you that, you know, I don't even think that's like right way around, but hey, you don't know diddly.
John's going through his best colonial stage now. I think
I'm going for the Bobby Liebling. Am I Bobby enough? Is what I'm looking for. Like seriously, like today my tongue's firmly in somebody's cheek.
John wants to be back under King and Country. That's what I've heard.
Now I have a bow and a broadsword to answer for that.
A sword, you'll fit right in London.
It's Viking,
Firstly, I'd like to say anyone who's watching on Instagram, we won't get your comments. You have to be on YouTube to be able to comment. So apologies to Instagram listeners. If you want to comment, please go over to YouTube. We try and answer everything. And we've got the usual suspects in the crowd here.
Oh, yes. Yeah,
Grace Fandango first in. James Cuff and John Pardo, get in. Right, anyone who comments, you'll have to excuse me. I'm going to rely on John to tell me because my camera is like literally right in the way. Let me see if I can just get that out the way.
Well, I've fortunately got the laptop so I can see the comments. It's just, if you see me looking this way, it's because I'm looking at your comments, trying to figure out what's going on.
Mate, I've got it. I was just saying to John off here, this is the best setup I've had ever. I've got my lights sorted. I've got my camera sorted. It's almost like it all fell into a place. And now you watch halfway through, it'll go off.
Aye.
So the whole reason for this episode is kind of selfish on my part. So I really want a Fender custom shop reissue at Dan's Red Tele. I just want one. I wish they'd do one. I feel like they're doing all these sort of custom shop guitars and reissues of this, reissues of that. And they're missing the most important one. Like they would sell out. I don't understand. Anyway.
So I got to ask, Dan's, what year is his?
So it's not a vintage one. It's a custom shop, 63 reissue from the early 2000s. But it's called Red, and it's
because I've worked on a lot of different custom shop Teles that were candy apple red, and some of them have binding too. Like I worked on a double bound one that actually was a gift from Elliott Smith to the guy that owned it.
Well, to be honest, mate, I was looking for pictures of just other aged guitars, candy apple red, so I could get an idea for aging it. So I didn't want to copy Dan's exactly, but most of them were bound, which is what I found.
Well, that's the thing. Like, the ones that I've worked on have been bound, and like, an unbound one that's super custom.
Well, yeah, it
is actually like a custom finish that Fender would do for people back in the 60s and stuff,
exactly.
So there's some really super rare examples, and I guess is his one of those?
No, I think it's like a 2004 custom shop reissue. Just the standard. They did like a whole lot of them. There's nothing particularly special about it other than he's owned it for that amount of time and played thousands of gigs with it, and it's like his favorite guitar.
Over 20 years now.
Yeah. So Monty's guitars. So Matt over at Monty's took Dan's guitar apart, took the pickups out, measured them and stuff, and made a set of Monty's pickups, which inspired this because I was like, I can do it. So I got the Monty's pickups. It come with the little sticker, which mate, unbelievable for me. And well, I mean, we can go through all my component choices and
it's
like put the wood out. I bought a rough cut body.
It's such a Swiss Army knife guitar, and it's like such a great thing to start your builds on. Because it's got a lot of simplicity. You're not getting into like too much. Well, with your first build, and the parts are everywhere.
I rushed it through because we've got the Brighton Guitar Show next weekend. Please, anyone in the comments who's coming to Brighton, write it in there. And I'm taking my strap, but I'm not coming home with my strap. I'm fucking selling it. It's going. So
it's got to go.
Every guitar show I've had since I got that strap, I've had at the very least 4 people offer to buy it. Apart from maybe Woken with it. That was a small guitar show. But anyway, like Birmingham and Brighton, at least 4 people every time have said, what year is that? 77? Yeah. Oh, can I buy it? my father-in-law Glyn has nearly sold it a few times.
Oh yeah, you told that story a few times, and you were like, wait, no, what are you trying to do, mate? That's my guitar.
I think this has all come about since I stopped using the wiretap for the pedal demos on the YouTube videos and started playing guitar. And I just dread playing the Strat. And I'm like, I need something that's not P90 and single coils. And the Tele, it really does fit in your fit in your lap nicely. It's like my first guitar, my first electric was a Tele. So it's not like I'm unfamiliar with them. I just the scale length's always been too long for me or what have you. But I'm really happy with it. Apart from the string pedals, of course. But we'll get onto that, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, we'll get onto that. So we've got Wilco 1985 in the chat, Dave Berry in the chat, Hubcap John. Hey, what's up?
Oh, hello, John.
Rick Leland. He says, "Okay, Joe, where's the neck from?"
Okay, so the neck is it's a Fender license one. All parts. It's an all parts neck.
Yeah. So
it was aged.
I
bought it aged, mate. From a company in America.
Like talked about this a little bit. Like somebody at All Parts. I don't know if we talked about this live or if I was talking about this with somebody.
It was the last live show, mate. Yeah.
It was where somebody at All Parts told me they were Fender Japan is where they were getting them from. Well,
this one's actually been altered, so it's gone a company out in America called American. I want to say American Vintage. It'll be. I'm doing a full video on this, so it'll be in a video. But they basically added. They added clay dots, nitro finished it, aged it. And
so
what I don't
are they getting the blank?
They've done the whole.
What I want to know then, are they getting the blank from All Parts and then doing some?
Yeah, I believe so, mate.
Okay, so that's what I do. Like, so my bass. Let me get this '60s vintage Gibson fretwire off of my bass.
Get in.
Yeah, well, this is what I'm installing on a Japanese Strat for a customer. Like it's kind of going to be like the perfect bending wire, knowing his style and everything. Anyway, but so like on this, like this is an All Parts neck that I got and put it together with a Japanese body. This is like a candy apple red Fender Japan body that was given to me by a really good friend, James Condino, a fellow luthier, badass luthier. But I took a raw neck and like did my custom French polish finish and my own decal work. Put my vintage P-Bass logo on there, but also put my anime mask on there. So, and I think Joe's frozen up again. Oh no. Are you there, Joe? We'll see. So anyway, this was just a raw neck, and I basically, took it and made it into what I wanted the neck to be like. So that's the beauty of the All Parts necks, I think, is you can get, something that, is in the white for very cheap and make it into a really like beautiful custom piece. Aye. So Craze Fandango, how can you freeze in this heat? I don't know. I did something earlier where I did a reset. Let's see, maybe. He's back.
It's not you, mate. Yeah. So,
well, that's what my ex-girlfriends always say.
Do they know my wife?
Oh, well, you see,
John's had a failure now. That's 1-1.
Well, I've had a.
If can anyone in the comments, can you just let me know if my streaming quality has gone down or not since I've come back? Because I'm going through my phone now, which is probably going to cost me enough to remortgage my house, I suppose.
Remind me never to get service in Britain.
Yeah, I am.
So anyway, like I was rambling on about All Parts necks. Like they're awesome.
Well,
I've used them forever.
They did the clay dots. See, my big thing is I like clay dots. If I'm having a Fender neck, it's having clay dots. So they did the clay dots. It's a slab board. It's got big fret wire and it's an inch thick. Or it's a beef. It's a bit of a beef.
Yeah, the fretwork, the installation of the frets. Like I have to do very little detail work on any of the frets from any of the all parts necks. Even they're in the white with no finish stuff. Like I just had to do just like some basic stuff with some sponges and stuff. That's one thing I want to talk about too, like secret weapons like this.
What is that?
This is a sponge.
Obviously a sanding block or something.
Well, you get this at beauty salon places, beauty salon supply places. In the US we call it Sally Beauty Supply. But you know how I discovered this? Smoking pot in the green room and finding it and seeing like fret lines on it where the person who was playing before I was playing had used it to polish up their frets. And
I was going to say it looks like a fret tool.
It's amazing, but you can also use it for so many other things, like things that cost you 99 cents, a couple bucks, a few pounds, whatever, that you wouldn't really think were designed for what you're to do with it. Stuff like this. This is a coarser grit. But one of the things that you start realizing when you do cross-discipline stuff is that there's tools out there to work on materials that are very similar to the materials that you're working on your guitar. And you don't have to go spend like the upcycle charge that these guys with names that we won't mention, like,
Stumac. I'll mention it.
Yeah, you'll mention it because, I was going to say Stumac.
Well,
anyway,
so I went through as many local suppliers that I could, or not local, sorry, more like smaller suppliers of everything. So like the body I mentioned before, it come from Canada, but I think I want to say it come from Rebel Guitars, but it was it's pine, and it was cut down in 1986, which was 1 year old, younger than me, and it's been sat in a woodshed, like body blanks piled up in a woodshed, and it had it had 3 woodworm holes in it that I had to fill in. But it's like 3.5 pounds the body was weight wise, so it's super light.
So
and
then
it was rough cut. It was very rough cut.
So you did the candy apple red finish yourself then on the body?
So I bought.
Oh man, I'm even more impressed.
I sanded it down.
I thought we were talking about building a Partscaster guitar. Where you. It's a Partscaster. But no, it's not.
I'll explain.
This is a step above. This is a step above. This is like a custom guitar that Joe's
everyone
built.
Stop. I'm having my moment in the sun there. John just said I'm a step above. Let's all stop and take a photograph so we remember this moment. In fact, I wanted to.
Hey, I remember this. Clip this. No, that's a step above a Partscaster, mate. That's you've built a custom guitar.
So
because Fender Custom Shop.
Let me tell you how I finished it, and you tell me how I could.
Just like you did. Like they start with pieces that were done by machines, and then humans get them, and then humans do
also do them themselves.
And that's the thing. Like that's what I love about getting things from places like All Parts. It'll get you stuff that gets you to the point where then you get your magic in.
Yeah.
And you can create a guitar.
So, James, I am 100% going to be in the Pedal Expo, a Brighton Guitar Show, living the dream, absolutely living the dream. I can't wait. Brighton is the second best guitar show, if not the best guitar. It'd be the second best if maybe it'd been running for a bit longer. In the UK, it's amazing. The only other one that I think beats it is Birmingham. It's fantastic. Phil Steer, who runs it, is an absolute legend. He could cram more people into that guitar show, but he won't. Oh, sorry, I'm putting that comment back up. He won't cram them in there because he wants every person to have space around their stand. so they can have people over to try stuff without feeling too pressured, too crammed in. It's amazing, mate. It really is.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I am definitely. So I had an idea, John. If I tell you how I finished it, you tell me whether I could have improved it. And the next time, not that I'm planning on doing another one. Haley, if you're watching this, I'm not doing another one. Not when I plan on doing another one.
It's going to be periwinkle.
I mean, I've got another Tele body on the top there.
We're going to do it in periwinkle blue.
I've got a what's the one I've got up there? I think it's a polo something Poloina or polo. It's a fucking really light wood. It feels like balsa wood anyway. But so I sanded it all down to about 400 grit. Got rid of, because there's massive saw marks in it and steps and stuff. Got rid of all that crap. Then I sand and sealed it. This is the biggest mistake. After the sand and sealer, I went to 400 grit. What I should have done was gone to like 3,000, because I left all scratches in it, which you can see through the paint now.
So now let me stop you there.
I didn't realize until I painted it red.
No, your biggest mistake was you only did sanding sealer once. What you needed to do was exactly what you did.
I did only do one coat.
You needed to sanding seal, and then you needed to sand it down, maybe 600 grit, and then seal it again, and then sand it down with 600 grit again, real light, or maybe double-aught synthetic steel wool, just something to give it some tooth. And then that's when you're getting ready to apply your metallic coat, right?
To keep the paint.
Yeah, just basically,
so you can
give it some tooth so it can like mechanically bond. Yeah.
So anyone who comes to Brighton will be able to see the marks. And annoyingly, they don't go in the same direction as the checking. They go lengthways across the guitar, which is bloody annoying. But you live and learn, and it's also funny to watch on a video where I'm like, for fuck's sake.
And also,
anyway, I sand and sealed it. Then
we're going deeper than I thought we were going to go, mate. Because I was thinking like I'm going to talk like neck pockets and putting bolts together and stuff. But I've got so much to say about this. I
fucked the bolts up as well.
Well, there's like a little thing called scraping. And anybody that knows a scraper and how to use a scraper properly, or like how to turn anything into a scraper too. This is like the way that you can get glass smooth finishes on wood surfaces, and then you only have to like really lightly sand it. And what it does is it leaves the wood pores open so that the finish like goes in deeper, and you actually see layers into the wood. So your curl pops even deeper. Your all of your figure shows up, and you're able to see dimensionally further into the wood.
I think I've seen this on YouTube. I watched quite a bit of 8-Bomb Custom. If anyone watches him, and real good at finishing guitars. If you were to take
scraping can be as easy as taking a piece of metal, or a razor blade, or a piece of glass, Like I've seen scraping techniques. I mean, it's ancient. Scraping is a way of woodworking that it's kind of like controlled surface cutting.
So here's a question for you, John, from Jeffrey Shockley. Do you recommend wiping down with a tactile cloth, or just blow it off with some air before you start painting? Now, shall I tell you what I did, and then you can tell me how wrong it was?
Comment because I'm reading. Do you recommend whipping it down with a tactical cloth, or just blow it off with air before you start painting? I mean, if we're getting tactical,
I think I read what he meant.
Tactically, like any cloth that's at hand, any cloth that's at hand's a good cloth. So tactically, I'd whip it real good.
Mine was hanging by a bit of wood, and I just grabbed my t-shirt and give it a little wipe, because I was painting in my back garden with my dog, and Gibson would give me a bloody
the thing you really got to be careful of is it's not what you wipe it with, it's what's on what you wipe it with, because there are things that you can contaminate wood surfaces with, especially if you're going to finish with lacquer, and you don't want to get any kind of silicone based things. That'll cause fisheye like madman. If you've ever dealt with lacquer that's fisheye, it's probably because you have some sort of silicone base, or something that's leached silicone, or moisture.
I messed up the paint in a few spaces, but it was really easy for me because this is a relic. All I did was take a heavy piece of metal and smash the fuck out the body wherever that lacquer drip was, and that become a bit of the agent.
Yeah, and really and that's awesome. Like when you're doing a relic, because you can hide mistakes so easy on a relic. You know, mistakes become like, you know, features.
So I did another. Here's a good tip from John, who is rather good at finishing, I must admit. Don't blow with an air gun, as you might introduce
oil from the compressor. And that's a very good point.
Fair dues, I can see that. Yeah.
And if you do use an air gun to blow things off, and if you use an airline for finishing, you need to have a filter for that very reason, so that compressor oil from the compressor, you know, that's why you have those massive contraptions, you know, with all the silica gel and the multiple stages that, you know, filter it all out, and they're taking moisture out as well as any lubricants, and those lubricants for the compressor can wreak havoc on your lacquers.
So, mate, this is turning into like a day job for me, because part of my job on board was compressors and stuff. Like usually HP compressors, once you get to like lead man level, which is like that's corporal in the army, the HP compressors are like 270 bar. That's kind of the pressure that you're working at when you're doing that. But I slipped in a little trick at this point. So I have my white lacquer. All of the paint, all of the color, the undercoat and stuff come from Manchester Guitar Tech, who's just been took over by a new guy who was amazing. He even helped me with the color of my guitar and stuff. But
awesome! Like it's
I was putting the undercoat on, I did
mixing the colors together.
So the guy used to be a guy called Steve, and he fixed one of my Les Paul Custom that I loved. It was a 98 Les Paul Custom. Some knobhead woman with a pram knocked it over in the bakery and snapped the neck, like give it that smile cut.
Oh yeah,
and he fixed that for 40 quid. 40 quid.
That's because it was a clean break, and you
legend. But anyway, quick. He was retiring. So...
I've done the same thing. Like, you know, 35 bucks still US. Yeah.
I think he blew glue in with compressed air. Anyway, so I noticed that it'd been took over by another guy. He's only just took over it, but I've got to say, if anyone's got any reservations about using them, they were bloody amazing. But instead of just using them, the only other thing I used was this Dartford's lacquer, clear lacquer, called Kraken lacquer, and all it is nitro with no plasticizers in it. So for the undercoat, I sprayed one clear coat of Kraken lacquer, and then a couple of coats of undercoat, and then another clear coat of Kraken lacquer, because I know they melt into each other, but I wanted there to be less plasticizer. So I was tactical about it. And every couple of coats of finish or whatever, I used the whole can, I put one coat on, because that way I knew that the lacquer would crack. I mean, it cracks anyway with the other lacquers, but maybe not as easily and not as uniformly or whatever. Well, that was a godsend.
So
just look that in there. Then I did obviously the silver and then the red.
So
So it was obviously candy apple red, for those who don't know, is silver and sorry, go on.
So for a lot of my relicking for finishes, I'll use a cryogenic treatment, like to replicate the cold checking. I'll go 100%. And buy dry ice. And,
I've done the
body completely. Yeah. And it's amazing. And it also, I think, does something to the wood. I think cryogenically creating 100%. Like, you know, different like openings in the wood grain again. It almost like it shocks it back, you know, after it's dried. Also, you got back together. I think the cold does something.
Think about the oils. This is my thinking, mate. If you take oil and make it less viscous because it's cold, and that's inside the wood, it's going to put pressure on the wood. And then when it heats up again, it's going to release and relax the pressure on the wood. And I think that over 1,000,001 times helps the wood. I mean, I'm guessing. But you're also speaking to the guy, the chief engineer, who was in charge of the fridges on board every ship I've had. So I'd have like the fridges taken down for 2 days, the freezers. And the chefs would be like, Chief, why can't we get anything out the freezers? You know, we're struggling for scran. There's going to be nothing to eat tonight. And I'd be like, it's on test, mate. And really what that means is I've locked the door and my guitar's hanging up inside it to get some luggage. Apologies to anyone I've served with stuff and shit scran, because I was like, nah, it's out of action, mate. And my Les Paul would be swinging inside it like fucking at sea. Yeah, sorry, boys.
The secret's out.
But yeah, definitely. So I used the for this one. Yeah, for this one I used a heater and compressed air.
Yeah,
liquid.
I've done the same thing.
But there's a way of doing it which you do show in the video. If you just spray it on there, you get shattered glass. It looks terrible.
Yeah,
but there's a routine to do, which is shown in the video.
You got to apply it,
and you can control which way the lacquer.
Yeah, you got to apply it with sort of a different touch.
There's a distance and there's an angle to apply it. Yeah, definitely.
You know, I've seen a lot.
I actually use lighter fluid
instead
of compressed air because I'm a heathen.
I've seen a lot of relic jobs. You know, in quotes that it's like, somebody just like beat up a guitar and called it a relic, and it doesn't look like any kind of playware. It doesn't look like any kind of thing. You know, I've worked on guitars that were built in the 40s, the 50s. You know, that have been through gigs. I've seen what people do to their instruments and worked on them and brought them back to life. So I know how to make something look, like it was from there. So, there's, an art to it, but at the same time,
I just use my Melody Maker as a.
Yeah.
I feel like most people go over the top. That's the problem. I've got to give a shout out at this point to a brand called More Solar Guitars. I was next to these guys at the Woking Guitar Show earlier in the year, and every guitar that they had that was aged could have passed off in my mind as a vintage guitar. It was just there was this Strat, mate. It was like Fiesta Red over Sunburst. It was just beautiful, and I really wanted to get it. It's what you're talking 1,500 quid for a guitar, which is comparable to a custom shop guitar. It was just insane. But I really tried to save to get
that's a bargain. Like really, if you're getting a guitar that's a custom shop worthy guitar, like a lot of those custom shop guitars are like 2, 3, 4 or more. Depending on the level you're talking about and the features you're getting.
Yeah, exactly.
But
so in my video, I actually posed the question: Can I build a guitar that rivals a custom shop? And obviously, that's tongue in cheek and being pedantic. I can't make a guitar that rivals the custom shop because I'm a pedal builder, not a guitar builder. But I'd say for the money I spent on it,
so I'll give a
I bought the best of everything.
There.
I mean, I didn't skimp on a thing.
You can't build one that rivals the custom shop yet, but I bet. Like if you put some time and effort into it and built, another 10, you could, like, because it's just,
Well,
learning
I think
from
this
your
might
repetition.
be my 6th or 7th guitar in total. Yeah. Well,
you're on your way then, mate.
The point of this was I wanted red. I wanted Dan's red Tele. I couldn't buy it. So
you had to make it.
What else are you going to do?
Yeah.
And I wanted a light guitar as well. So. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And a pine wood Tele. I don't know. Something about that.
Ah, yeah. It's just so light and red. Like,
well, it was the original prototype wood that they were using.
The company got it from were like the tap tone's good. I don't know what that means. Yeah. So there's a guy I built one from pine that is in the shape of the original snakehead ones, and I bought it from people. Look at these guys over on oh god, what? Not eBay. What's the other thing in the UK that you'd have? Let me have a look. The other buy and sell place. Etsy.
Oh, yeah.
Right, so if you're on Etsy, go and have a look at Striker Custom Guitars. They do like pine Telecasters in the original format, and they're actually in Kyiv in Ukraine. So I got them to send me a body, and I built a Billy Gibbons gold top Tele. But I was at sea in 2022, escorting Russian warships to the Black Sea, building a guitar that come from Ukraine while they were on the way out there to kill the fuck out of them. So
not a sense.
It was a weird experience. I should never have sold that one because
not a sentence that you would be expecting to say today.
I finally got that guitar and I was like, oh yeah. No.
Well,
mad.
The beautiful thing about
they're still making this.
The beautiful thing about the Tele is it's like the the everyman guitar that you can find parts for everywhere, and so there's always been people messing around with Teles and doing different stuff. So it's, something, one of the things that I participated in a while back was like this $100 Telecaster challenge, like just throw together as many parts as you can for under $100.
Oh, wow.
As a Telecaster, and then post it on the forum. And it was just, a body that I picked up for like $25 that had pickups in it, and a neck that, like came off of, a Telecaster ripoff from China. And, I basically, just, put it together. And it's like, because you can find Tele stuff everywhere. And I think it's a really good learning platform for anybody that wants to build an electric guitar.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, man.
So what have we got in the comments? I imagine there's some people blowing up in there.
Mate, one switch, two knobs, but there's a load you can do. Right, so let me send some stuff through. So first, he says, why won't it come up? He wasn't impressed by them. I'm guessing he means more solar, because he played that red Strat that I was like blown away with, and he was like, meh, not really my thing. So that's an interesting one. Just shows different horses. Cuff. Have I got that right? No. Yeah, it says, Joe, why don't you send it to Milo Studios for a roasting and an inspection? Mate, I actually asked Paul to come on the Pedal Dive podcast, because I am obsessed with his program. He's so funny. He's
man. Like I
even catch myself saying
subscribed
sorts of things like, "What, my lover?"
As soon as I saw that post where you were talking about it, I was like, "Who is this? He's going on about?" And I went and was like, "Oh, mate, why haven't I found this guy yet?" He's like,
yeah, easily the best channel on YouTube right now, hands down. I'll say it. But so for Paul, he actually got back to me and said, look, podcasts aren't really my thing. And he was really polite and what have you. He seems like a nice guy. Not his thing, so he's not coming on a pedal podcast, funnily enough. Then what was I going to say about that? Oh, I would love it, right? Put it out in the world now. That if Paul was to do, because he does his builds, he does for charity, mate, which I love. Mm-hmm. Like, he'll build a guitar out of his own pocket and just give it away to, auction it off for charity. So if Paul wanted to build a guitar and I spray it, relic it, like, a Fender type thing, and I also make a pedal that matches it, I'd send that back to him and he could do like a charity giveaway, and I'd pay for
a matching pair
and the pedal.
Yeah.
I'd be more than happy. He's just a legend. And fully enough, next person in the comment row is Dan Mincher.
Hey, what's up, Dan?
Who has also sent Milo Studios quite a few bits by the look of it. I'm just watching a few things down. All right, there you go. Actually, the next comment along, he says, I'm heading down to... Apologies, people. My internet is so slow today. That's why there's like a time lapse. He said he's heading down to Paul's Way in a few weeks. No, I'm keeping this, mate. It's not going anywhere. This is actually like my pride and joy at the minute. So, but as I say, if Paul wants to
that's Dan's way of saying, give me your guitar, I'm going to keep it.
Matching pedal. He run the London Marathon and give all the money away, like raise money for charity. He's just, mate, he is like the ultimate nice guy. Even though he tries to come across as a bit of a wanker, he's just not. I love it. So let's see what else we got. There's a big one from Jeffrey. It says, I've been thinking about getting a Flying V kit. Right, let me tell you now, I built one and then sold it for about $3,000 from Precision Guitar Kits. Buy it from them, get them to glue in the neck, and their fretwork is fantastic, and the quality was unbelievable. It was Carina, it was light as you like. But yeah, or maybe learning on a Tele. Honestly, if you buy the Flying V, if they glue the neck in, mate, it's just as easy.
Well, and also it really depends on your skill level, like definitely. What you built, and like how comfortable you are with like gluing a neck in yourself. Like I love getting things as Heathkit stripped down as possible, where I get to do everything. And also I just I've done it from scratch too. I've taken a tree and turned it into a guitar.
I paint pedals.
Mm-hmm. just me, like I wanted to know how to do everything. So I've taken a tree and turned it into a guitar. I've got, slabs that are, waiting to be turned into guitars still. So, but at the same time, I also like taking something that's, that's awesome. That I find that's, almost there, and then putting my stamp on it. And, it's like, it just really depends on, what I'm going for and what I think I can, get out of it in the end. Like, who's it for? Is it for me? Is it for, somebody else? And this is what they want, that sort of thing.
So the guitar in the background you see there was built for my father-in-law, Glyn, who'd be at the guitar show as well if anyone wants to take the piss out of him for his dislike of me using cable ties. So it's a Tele, but it's got some, I forget what the wood's called, but it weighs about 5.5 pounds, mate. The body feels like balsa wood. It's ridiculous.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it's not soft.
Is it basswood?
A guy local to me who built my gold top built him it.
Is it basswood?
No, it's something beginning with an M.
Because I've built some basswood Teles that are super light. It's lighter than balsa wood, but like has this incredible resonance.
Yeah. 1/2 pound body. The neck's heavier than the body on this, definitely. Until I put the controls and stuff in, it was very neck heavy. But he went for like Goto bridge and stuff like that, whereas I went to crazy parts in Germany and got an exact 50s replica with the proper stamping, the proper serial number for it. Even though I know it's a 60s guitar custom finish, the 50s ones were nickel, and I prefer nickel. I even went titanium saddles as well. I got the KTS because I know Dan's got them on red, so I had to copy that.
Did you go with the compensated saddles, like so that you have the proper intonation worked into them? Because on a 3-pole saddle, where you got 2 strings per pole piece,
kind of angles a little bit.
Yeah. And that's
so
one of the things too.
Like each one's angled, mate. But they do 2 types of them. Sorry, mate. Go on.
Well, so I was going to say, like, when I've built Teles for myself and for other people, a lot of times what they settle on are the Goto bridges that are 6 saddle. If they're going with the vintage route pattern, because it's got a really good brass plate and individual string intonation, that you can just dial it in. And if somebody just absolutely has to have the look of the vintage saddles, but they need the intonation, a lot of people that I've done this for, I've used the Wilkinson tilting saddles. Have you seen those, where you can actually tilt the saddles with a little Allen wrench screw and then lock it in place? I've used those for different people.
Micro tilt or something like that.
I mean, there's so many different solutions for that out there, but like my favorite for a utilitarian Strat is the 6 saddle bridge, that Goto makes, because it gets, that edge out of the way of the ashtray type bridge. When you're trying to play in certain positions, you have this thing like brushing up against your hand. And the Goto bridge, the Japanese, just like they know how to take something
where'd you rest
good
your
and
hand,
make it anywhere you want. That's the thing. Like it frees you up. And the Japanese just know how to take something good. I think I want to like, give some like simping to, Japanese craftsmanship, because they know how to take something good and make it better. They really do. Like, some of my favorite guitars are Japanese guitars. I'd rather have like the worst Japanese guitar made just after they started making guitars after, World War II, than like some of the, people, simping on these Chinese guitars and other guitars. And like, I'd rather have the worst Japanese guitar, because I know it was made with a certain amount of craftsmanship, and I can take that and turn it into something amazing. Whereas, I can try and polish this turd over and over again. It's never going to be anything good. So. Arigato.
I agree. The thing is, if you were to buy parts, well, you're going to realize one thing with a Partscaster. Like, I think I spent like, I don't want to say in case my wife's watching, about £1,500 on this guitar in total, in all the bits over time. I would never be able to sell it for 1,500 quid unless someone's buying it because they've played it and like, oh, this is an amazing guitar, I want it. It's just not going for that much ever. You lose money on them. But if you're comfortable with that and the guitar's for you, who cares, mate?
If you're
do you know what I mean?
If you're approaching it from an angle where you're trying to make money off of it, you gotta like get yourself a wholesale license and you gotta buy in bulk, and there's a lot of steps to doing that. But if you want to build something for less money than what you're going to pay, for something equivalent, then it's a great route to go. And I think it's a great thing to do, is just learn how to make your own instruments anyway. Like, I'm a big proponent of that. I'm a DIY guy, always have been. I'll build a guitar with a pocket knife if I have to.
So much fun, mate. So much fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I had to use a knife on this a few times to try and get over a few problems. Is anyone in the comments, is anyone familiar with the Monty's neck bolt kit?
So anyway, Uncle Dan's Vintage Vinyl was asking
which one are we looking at, that bottom comment?
The very last one. So he has an old Apollo sort of 335 copy that would make you doubt your favorable comments about Japanese guitars. I've worked on them all, and I still love them.
There's going to be howlers in all of them. There's always going to be howlers in them.
Oh, but the thing is, like, I know what I'm dealing with. Like, even the worst Japanese guitar that I've ever worked on, I know what the bass line was, and they were at least putting this much effort into it. There was some pride in there.
Yeah.
And what they did later in the 70s
would go
and
with
the 80s.
The 6 saddle bridge anyway.
Yeah, that's just me, because, like, I think of utilitarian.
It's sacrilege.
Well, then, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I
just can't, mate. I'm like, it doesn't look right. And I know you don't play with looks.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like, is it going to play in tune? Is it gonna stay in tune when you?
The thing is, I want to pick the guitar
when you. So when you abuse something the way that I do, like, that's the other thing. Like, are the strings going to break? Mid, first song, or some of the vintage stuff that's period correct and appropriate. Like, there's a reason why there's aftermarket parts that fix the problems that existed in that shit. That's the thing. Like,
Well, see, this is what I've noticed with my foray with vintage guitars. So I had a vintage Music Master, and I've also had a vintage, what's the 2 pickup thing? The old shorter scale Fenders anyway. And they come with threaded saddles. Mm-hmm. Now, what I did find is I love the sound of the threaded saddles, but they do snap strings. So I'm hoping that the titanium's going to be like that hardness, you know what I mean? The string snap.
I've done work on threaded saddles for people that absolutely had to keep their original saddles on because whatever, but I've had to spend $75 of their money in my time polishing and perfectly making grooves for the strings to fit the string spacing exactly for the pickups. And I mean, what you're liking is you're liking the fact that it's like a piece of solid steel that you're hearing the string resonating off of.
That was my thinking.
Yeah.
So Dan has titanium saddles on his one, but if you zoom in, you'll see that his on angled. They're like chamfered into like a straight edge.
Well, I've seen them angled and chamfered
opposite on each side of the.
You're basically
so there's a choice on PTS to do both.
Yeah, the same thing with the Wilkinson. Like they have them.
Well, my thinking, the only. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but my thing is I don't like the look of them, so I went with the rounder ones that are angled because
I will say I
like the look.
The worst Telecaster bridge ever made is the 6 saddle bridge that Fender was putting on a lot of their guitars, where it's like these individual barrel saddles that never seem to stay in line, and the damn adjustment screws always or too loose and rattle. Like worst design ever. for a guitar. Like you'll see them on Squires, but you also saw them on some, like things that had the Fender name on it. I was like, what in the hell? Like, this thing's an atrocity. So I have like a bunch of those that I'll take the individual saddles and use them for like experimental instruments that, I'll make out of solvent cans or, planks of, 2x12.
Well, you bring up an interesting thing there. I was so worried about putting the Fender name on the headstock because I don't want to misrepresent the guitar. I don't want to get in trouble for doing it. But then by luck, I bought a Fender licensed neck. I didn't buy it on purpose because I was like, I want to have the name on the headstock. It was like an afterthought. I was like, shit, I can't put it on. Oh yeah, I can because it's Fender licensed. And I had to ask you, didn't I? Because I just was not sure.
Really, the only thing you can't do, and that's the reason why it's like emblazoned so deep into the back of your neck, is so that you can't sand it off. If you sand it off, the officially licensed Fender, stamp that they put in the back of those necks, you'll ruin the neck. So you can't fake it. So people know that it's not an original Fender neck; it's a Fender licensed neck, and that's how they can do the headstock shape. Is they get the rights from Fender to be able to do that. So because it's a replacement, you kind of can get away with it. You just can't say that it's the authentic, real deal.
So John, you've got a question here. John, how did the drilling go? Did
I hit gold? He's talking about his pedal.
Gold?
Well, I hit kind of a wall with some different things. So I'm having to like rethink my layout a little bit.
Also, people shout out if I'm not answering comments properly because I'm rather terrible at this. James Cuff said, what do you think is the easiest to work on? And I think we're going to answer this differently. Putting it together, running the electric wires, etc. Running the electrics took me exactly 30 seconds because it was like doing a child's pedal. There's literally one cap in there and two pots and a switch. It was so easy.
On a Tele,
the electrics was the easiest for me.
The electrics are so easy on Telecasters. It's one of those things too that there's some modifications for Telecasters too that you can.
I think I'm freezing again.
Yeah, you probably are. So anyway, I was going to say there's some modifications for Telecasters that I love to do too, where you can put a 4-way switch in, and if you have your pickups wired, where you remove the ground from the shield and make it separate, and then you have the pickup opened, on either end, so you can get this in and out of phase kind of sound. The Texas Special pickups that you can get from Fender, the custom shop, allow you to do that. And then also, you can put a 5-way switch in there and put a pickup in the middle, pull a James Burton, and
So I did what every good geek would do, and I copied Dan. So I basically removed the neck pickup from the tone control. So the neck pickup's just completely, it works with the volume, but it doesn't work with the tone. So the tone control just does the bridge because, you never really use the tone on your neck, do you? So I can set and forget the bridge and just switch.
There you go. And then like your original wiring, that was the other thing. Like I figured out a way to wire up a 4-way switch so that you could get just that, where you had, the original wiring where it was just, no tone control, just a set capacitor in there that was attenuated to the neck pickup. And then also, have it where it was affected by the tone control. So, there's just so much you can do with it as a platform. And then you start, getting into body modifications where you can do contours on the body, like the Jeff Beck contours and that kind of thing.
I played a great Jeff Beck guitar out in Sweden, mate. It was an exact replica of his Esquire, done by Fred Ash Guitars.
Yeah,
mate.
I've made a couple of those for different customers. it's iconic for a reason. I mean, it just feels great when you replicate it and you feel it. You're just like, oh wow, there's a reason why they did this. There's a reason why, some guy like grabs his Tele and like takes it over to a belt sander and goes zzz.
Yeah.
So which is what they did.
Questions come in. Nick Cuff says, have you guys both got a workshop? If you mean by workshop a garage with soundproof plasterboard in and 1 million tons of foam in the middle and some tables nicked from the Royal Navy Engineering School. If anyone's from the Navy watching, I never nicked them. They were going in the bin anyway. And a YouTube studio built on top of that. And yeah, I've got my own workshop. But
if by a workshop you mean like a huge mess, like full of things that are potentially useful, and a floor that I can sit on like a Japanese craftsman and do my stuff when I can find things to work with, then yeah, I got a workshop.
Dave Barry says, is the neck same size as the original Fender apart from the headstock on licensed necks? I think the headstock's the same, isn't it? My headstock seems.
Well, I don't know. I mean, there's different. No, it looks a little different. Like, I mean, they're different. Well, I mean, it's the right, profile, but there's different eras of headstock shapes. Just like a Stratocaster, you have the different headstock shapes on a Strat. You have different Tele headstock shapes. So, like, what you'd have to do is kind of figure out what yours matches as far as the year range.
And let me tell you now,
probably most likely matches like the modern era stuff.
Yeah.
So
Craze Fandango says I have a 4-way switch on one of his Telecasters, and he keeps putting it in the wrong position. He finds it annoying, and that is exactly why I've got a 3-way with the tone controls disconnected from the neck pickup, because that is like I just couldn't. I literally could not be arsed trying to figure out what position I'm in. I struggle with that and with the Strat as well.
It's one of those things that I do these things not because I want them, it's because other people ask me to do them and because they give me money. So it's like that's sort of my reasoning for it. But for myself, like for a Telecaster, a 3-way switch, and most of the time I'm playing either the neck or the bridge, like so
same. It's neither here nor there if you're in between, is it? It's like I want treble or it. Joel Duffield says, have you ever built an effect directly into a guitar? Well, I'm meant to be building a fuzz to go into someone else's guitar, a custom guitar maker, and I still haven't built it. So if that custom guitar maker, as yet unnamed, and he's agreed to come on the podcast afterwards as well. I still haven't built it. Hopefully I'll bump into him and I'll have it built in time. So apologies for that one. I will do soon.
Yep. And yes, I have built effects into guitars for people's requests. I mean, there were different effects units that were marketed that people would, have like distortion units that you could put in and make it so you just added a potentiometer and you could blend it in. And some of them are passive, some of them are active. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff you can do like that. I like the Mother's Bar approach, though, like the way Devo does it, where he just tapes his pedals to his guitar. And you're frozen. Am I frozen? Nope, I'm not frozen. Hey. Oh, well. I'll read a few of these comments, Big headstock is the best headstock.
Well, I'm back on my phone.
You're back. All right. Woo.
Such a pain in the ass. Hubcap John sent me a what looked like a smuggler's Tele, with the whole pickguard thing rooted out.
Yeah, with the built-in fuzz, octave, and delay.
Yeah, but a clear pickguard. And honestly, the wiring and the boards inside that with all the little trim pots and stuff, it gave me fucking nightmares. I was just like, it was all like intricate. It looked truly amazing. And he's like, you could do something like this. Like, no, I couldn't. Not for me. But it was truly fantastic, to be fair. So, yeah. Who else we got in?
Let's see.
Dan Mincher says, Dave Barry, that's why you need to have a blend pot instead of a switch. Yeah, so I've seen guitars where you can blend in the neck pickup in one position. The problem I've got is that you have to get the guitar into that position while you're playing, which I can't really do because I'm shit at playing. I can either focus on going from the bridge to the neck or whatever, but anything else, I can't do in between or anything like that. And then you got to remember that you've got to move it's just too much.
Yeah, and then again, it's like you might as well start, getting into a different kind of guitar if you're starting to, do those kind of modifications on your Tele. It's not a Tele anymore.
Here's one for you. Wait, Wadey's in the chat. Hello, Wadey. How's it going, mate? He said, "What's up, gentlemen? Your thoughts on a solderless wire?" Excuse me, I'll just being sick. Oh, what'd you say, mate? Solderless? Nah, don't believe in it. A solderless wiring harness for easy, quick pickup changes in a Partscaster like a Mojo Tone or an Obsidian. Do you know what, mate? For someone who doesn't like soldering, doesn't know how to solder, whatever, great, fantastic. Anything that you can mod, make, or whatever, and it makes you feel comfortable and happy, I'm like, go for it. But I would be sick in my mouth constantly if I had that in my guitar. I just can't.
As someone who just got a guitar, in for repair that had one of those kind of solderless pickup wiring harnesses and like custom, pick guards, just drop in replacements in it. There's some cheap stuff in there, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that you can't repair. Like, if it fails,
you seen the green tea stuff?
I'm not sure if I have or not. I've seen.
So they have their custom pickup.
I think this was a Gun Street pick guard that I saw, and I was like, man,
whoa,
there's so many places things can go wrong, and there was stuff
and they're a hell of a good brand as well.
And it looks like it's being made in overseas factories.
Really?
When I looked at it, I was like, man, it's all like connectors, like little plastic connectors and stuff, and it's surface mount components and circuit boards mounted to potentiometers and stuff. It's like, man, there's so many things that could be wrong that are causing this issue inside of this.
Yeah.
And you've got to trace it down. Whereas, standard wiring diagram for a Stratocaster, which is what this was on, and there's only so many things it can be. And you can shotgun the whole thing for less money than it would take to try and figure out where the issue is on that. It's like, so I think it's like the era of planned obsolescence coming to a horrible, ugly head. Make stuff that you can't fix, so you got to buy another one.
Mate, I'd be willing to bet that I paid more for my switch tip than that whole harness. I bought a vintage Stackaway switch tip. So it's like it never come off a vintage Tele, but it was the same manufacturer from the same time.
Oh man,
you can't tell the difference, but I know it's there, so it's gonna make me feel better.
I can't fault you on that because I just made a lot of money selling a lot of vintage plastic to people, stuff that I had zero amount of money in, but because it's old and it's made of plastic from a certain manufacturer, people like, oh, I want that.
So same as my pickguard, mate. I got it from Crazy Parts, and it's made of the right cellulose crap that Fender had in the 60s or whatever. It's the same. And I was like, yeah, I don't care. I'm buying it. And and I'm not very good at aging. Tell like, for example, if you look at someone like Sun Bear Pickups, his plastic work, like the P90 covers and stuff, is truly a work of art. It's amazing.
Yep.
And having tried to age some of that stuff, it's hard to get right.
Yeah,
so I just bought the pickguard.
There's some tricks to it, and I'm not going to give away too many of them because I don't want anybody inhaling fumes that they shouldn't be inhaling and using chemicals that are potentially hazardous. Like, some of the stuff I'd have to give so many caveats and warnings, as to how to get that effect and how to make it and get it right to the edge and stop it. Like, you're basically damaging something to a point and then reversing the damage, and the stuff that causes that and that you can do that with is pretty nasty.
So James Cuff with a question here. Joe, basically he's asking about ROSH complying with solder. Now, this is an interesting thing. If you're deciding to build a pedal to make a pedal company that's going to sell pedals to people, then you're going to have to be ROSH compliant or UKCA compliant or whatever. And you can't have leaded solder in your stuff. If you're going to take old stuff and solder it, then it's not ROSH compliant anyway, because the vintage components aren't ROSH compliant. They have soldered on from previous. So I use leaded solder because I'm using vintage components. So they're not ROSH compliant. I could never be ROSH compliant. However, if the UK government has their way, I'm sure they'll stifle that from me too. But yeah, I don't follow it. And if you're going to build pedals for yourself, I would just use leaded solder, mate. It's just so much better.
And when we're talking about guitar electronics,
and you don't even have to spray out that much.
So let me chime in here on guitar electronics as well. Well, especially guitar electronics, do not use ROHS solder. Use lead solder if you're working on your own guitar stuff. You know, if you can get it, use it, because the temperatures that it takes to heat up and get ROHS solder to flow a lot of times will damage the potentiometers when you're trying to like do grounding work and stuff like that. So, I mean,
so easy to do, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And you know, if you're not building to sell, you're not having to deal with that. Like, it's just so much easier to deal with like a 60-40 or, you know, what is it, 62-30 something, like 62-38.
I think it's 37, yeah.
I've seen so many different blends.
Some good comments.
Yeah, there's like 60-40. Yeah. Just get a good filter.
Jeffrey Shockley says, get a good fan with a filter. Yeah, or so I have a fan completely blowing the fumes away from me, and then that blows it towards my extraction fan, rather than being a filter that just gets booted straight outside the workshop. Joel Duffield says that he's just switched to Kester solder. He loves it, but he hasn't tried the no clean versions. The no clean versions, the flux in them, in my mind, just a little bit shitter than normal flux. So I don't like them. I do have some stocked up because I've tried different brands and what have you, but I always find that I don't like it, so I buy my normal regular old solder that I use all the time.
Yeah,
and then if I run out, I'll use that. But
I'm just a fan of the
really
like
need the hot iron.
Yeah, the run of the mill Kester workhorse solder. I've used like a few of the different other brands that are out there and different formulas, but I always find myself going back to that, and it's just for the money, you know, and for the consistency. It saves me more time.
Can I'd have to block my face. Will it?
Yeah, it looks almost exactly.
But that's the Kester solder that I use.
Yeah,
I think it will be. It's basically lead. One thing I will say is really wash your hands after using it. You don't want to be solder on your hands is not harmful at all. Lead. The problem is ingesting it or breathing it in. So you get a good fan that blows it away from you. You're fine. What you will find
at this point,
and I'm sure you've been guilty
at this point, I'm more worried about the tablespoon or two of microplastic. I'm more worried about the tablespoon or two of microplastics we're all carrying around in our brains than I am any lead I'm going to inhale. I'll tell you that.
Mate, let me tell you, between the ages of 12 and 16, I had that many disco biscuits, mate. Lead is the least I've got to worry about.
Exactly.
Now. So,
like, you know, growing up in my environment in the 70s, you know, my dad and I, like, you know, we wiped our arms down with gasoline after working on the cars and, you know, using Varsol to clean components and, like, you know, getting covered in oil and all the, you know, the leftovers of combustion. So
there you go. Jeffrey Shockley says it's 6337. That's the stuff.
0.8.
He likes the 0.8 millimeter. I like the 0.7 millimeter if I can get it. Not I use the 0.8. That's great. And Dave Barry with a great tip here. Visit your local grow shop for an extractor fan. Great idea.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like we were talking about earlier, like I'm a huge proponent of finding things that are marketed for other purposes that work for the purpose you're going to do, you know, with lutherie or pedal building, because there are crossover things. And because, you know, somebody's like, oh, I'm going to market this to pedal builders, they'll like make this huge upcharge for the same tool. So my fret press is an arbor press, which is exactly the same thing that Stuart McDonald markets for hundreds of dollars. I bought it for like, $54, and then drilled a hole in it and mounted the fret press insert into it. So
I use my pillar drill for all of that.
Yeah,
these things. I had to pillar drill these in the what are they called? The ferrules for the
tuning machine ferrules
tuners, because they were not going in. No way were they going in by hand or other than a big hammer, which I've used in the past.
So like one of my tricks that I like to use for that is, are you familiar with like the quick grip type clamps, the hand squeeze clamps? It's I set some aside here, and now I'm trying to figure out what I did with them without.
Yeah, they're like a leather press thing or whatever.
Here we go. Yeah, that. That's the kind of clamp that I'm talking
about. My tuners, actually, while we're on the subject of tuners. Oh, yeah. Like woodwork clamps.
Yeah, but these, because they have like relatively soft but firm plastic, like rubberized jaws.
Down if you're gonna,
I find that these make a really good tool to press in the tuning machine ferrules.
Yeah. Which size do you prefer, 10 mil or the 8.2 mil or whatever? Which is your preferred?
We talking about solder
size?
Oh,
like if you buy tuners.
You're talking
tuners. So you'll have like your Grover are like 10 mil, aren't they? Or your occlusions are like 8.5. Is it?
I mean, a lot of it depends on the neck that I'm putting them in, because a lot of your necks are pre-drilled, so you're gonna have to match whatever tuners you put in there to the size I already have. And then they have adapter bushings, so if you want to go with a vintage tuning machine, they have oversized bushings to fit that oversized hole. Then other times you're dealing with a completely blank paddle headstock, so you can make it whatever size you want. But I mean, a lot of it just really depends on what the customer is going for me, like, because I'm such a utilitarian. I'm willing to put whatever fits that works great for my purposes on whatever I'm going to play. But I'm also doing this as a service for other people, so I kind of fit the customer's needs. Like, there's really no preference other than
these things that I got, mate. So Crazy Parts got a contract or a deal going with Clusen to build their own tuners with either single line Clusen or double line Clusens with the right Clusen branding on, but with normal tuners. So they got 18-to-1 tuners, but with so they did 100 double line and 100 single line. I think I might have got one of the last sets, the double line ones, but they come certificated and all sorts.
Yeah,
so
I've used those things.
They're
before
18-to-1, I think. Well, when you feel them, they're like feel steady.
I still would use the Goto equivalent, like the Goto vintage replacement, the Clusen copies that they make.
I think it may
even without the name on it, because I think they last longer. I've had so many different tuners that
these were built by Goto.
So if they're built by Goto, then
So these were built by Goto in Japan.
Yeah, so those
with the Clusen brand on.
Yeah, those are gold.
Accuracy.
Yeah, those are gold in my opinion. Then, so because I think Goto makes the best tuners for the money. I really do. Like, if you're gonna get a better tuner than what Goto makes for what they charge, it's going to cost you hundreds of dollars more than what Goto makes it for. Like, you're starting to get into the Alessi range, like, some Italian craftsman working, in a jewelry shop.
These were 80 quid aged. absolute steel.
Exactly.
And they only made 200 sets of them. So
that's what I love about Goto.
Get them.
Yeah, and also Goto tuners are the
they
easiest.
They have to pay extra to get the Clusen licensing.
Yeah, but in my experience, Goto tuners are the easiest to get a good relic finish on. If you buy brand new nickel finish Goto tuners, they're the easiest ones for me to relic and make them look exactly like they came, right out of the 60s or the 50s or whatever area you're going.
Do you do the vinegar thing?
No, I do things with etching solutions and different patina solutions. There's also patinaing solutions. There's also liver of sulfur. I've worked with metals of all different kinds, so I know how to I can make it turn green. I can make it turn like copper and green. I can make it turn black. I can make it look like it's just been slightly aged. Like, how do you want it to look? Basically, it's artifice. I can make it look like it came out of some other era, but it's all just knowing the right kind of chemicals and where to apply them and where not to apply them. You can destroy tuners if you get things like into things, if you apply them the wrong way too.
I mean, I don't think that tuners are usually the tuning problems on my guitars anyway. When I've had issues, it's almost always the saddles or the nut, always. But I do feel like tuners are one of them things that you should just splash out on, because a good tuner, it feels good in your hands, and you see it a lot. You use it all the time.
Yeah, a good set of tuners, like it's a great upgrade for any instrument. And I've had people bring me guitars that otherwise were doing everything they wanted them to, but the tuners were crap, and it was the one thing that the manufacturer just and that was the case with some of the old Japanese guitars. That's one of the things that I've replaced on a lot of old Tyscos from the 60s, were the tuning machines, because they just were horrible. I've replaced that, and the frets. Pickups are gold. A lot of times you got to replace the output jack. That's kind of a given on those old things.
Pickups are easy for me. If you want really good pickups, you get all the Stu from somewhere, or you get all the Montes, or you get all the. I tell you who else. If you've got something specific in mind that isn't like readily available or whatever, or it's a bit weird, Fletcher pickups. Mr. Fletcher will design. I mean, I babbled on to him for about half an hour with my old Music Master because I wanted the P90 for it, and I didn't have a clue what I was saying. And he was like, "Joe, I know what you want, mate." And he sent me this pickup. It cost me something like 50 quid, and it was like, bespoke to the guitar. He just wound it to do exactly what I wanted. And if you want to get an exact set, and there's also a brand that Milehouse guitars that he uses, and I can't think.
It's not bare knuckle, is it?
What brand it is?
I know that bare knuckle.
I know bare knuckle. No, it's not me. It's
that I've installed.
It's a brand that costs like 40 quid for the set of pickups. Dave Minchin or no? Who does
Warman's?
Who does
Warman's? Is that it?
Warman's.
Yeah,
there you go.
Warman's. Yeah.
So they're really cheap. They're like 40 quid. But
that's awesome.
He loves them, and so they've got to be good. Yeah. I mean, I'm guilty of going expensive is better, and I'm buying expensive. I'm guilty.
Well, so there's something to be said about that. A lot of times, you're getting what you're paid for, and also if you pay a lot for it, if it isn't good, you have a little bit more of a leg to stand on to say, hey, I want something to replace this, or I want my money back. If it was expensive, if it was cheap, you're like, yeah, well, what do I expect? I get what I pay for. So.
Yeah. So Dan Mincher says that amazing sounding. Warman is what did he say? Warman's down the way somewhere. James. Oh, so it's somewhere by James Cuff in Bristol. There you go.
Oh yeah.
But I'd be interested in trying his pickups. It's just my fingers are no Stu from somewhere, and I know Fletcher, and they've always done well by me, And to be fair, bare knuckle, as you say, they were the original boutique builder from the UK, and they're like Brandon, the bare knuckle guy with his top.
Oh
on.
yeah,
it's just so spot on, isn't it? You know?
Well, I got in on bare knuckle pickups in the US, like as an OG installer. Like I'm trying to remember what the serial number was on the humbuckers that he made. He even like signed the card. I put him in a vintage Gibson for one of my guitar customers that has gas. He was always saying, "Hey man, I got this guitar. I need," I could always count on a call a month from this guy saying he needed something on this next guitar. It was going to be the one that was going to, I'm never going to buy another guitar. This is the last. This is the last one. This is the one. I found the one.
It's me, isn't it?
I know,
that's
man.
me.
It's
so
gas,
I like the throwback pickups, the Kossoff set that I got. So he measured Paul's original guitar, which is like, and I put them in that Flying V that I made. They sounded great. They really did sound great. But they were like 500 quid each. 500 quid for the set. And then I had to pay taxes on it. It was knocking on 700 quid for the pickups. And, that's a guitar.
I'm,
James,
I'm a fan of the
James Cuff says he's in Plymouth, which is where Milo's Guitars is. And Bare Knuckles based in Falmouth, which is not too far from there. And such a great part of the world. I've spent most of my naval career in Plymouth. Bloody love it. The barbecue in the sun is great. There's always someone that gets pushed in the water when they're too pissed as well. Fantastic.
But kind of our channel being what it is too. This podcast, like do-it-yourself pickups is something that I really encourage a lot of people to try. It's not that hard.
I'm
to get into.
Dying to have a go.
Yeah,
I really want to have a
go. I've made my own pickup winder, and there's also pickup winders you can buy that are like out of the box. A couple $100. You can also do it with an electric drill.
Yeah,
and just kind of estimating, and just getting yourself some like good magnet wire and the bobbins and stuff like that, and playing around with it. I mean, it's one of those things too that like you can kind of turn a magnet and wire into a pickup. Like you can take a bar magnet and wrap it in a bunch of.
Well, if you think about how Brian May made Red Special out of like his mum's little needles and stuff by using a drill as a lathe and taping it on and then laving down like the roller saddles and stuff. He made all that shit himself.
That's why Brian
can do that. It's got
that's why Sir Brian's like one of my heroes. Like, Dr. Sir Brian, actually, PhD.
Is it like absolute legend? Oh, actually, Telecaster 52 Telecaster. He's in the chat. He bought the Brian May amp, and I swung by my post office today to inquire why. He hadn't received it. I thought maybe he just didn't like it, but they actually had it there. I hadn't filled in the customs information properly, so they didn't post it. But they also didn't tell me. So apologies on that, mate. It will be going out to you tomorrow.
I am still I
said to the woman, like, why is it still there?
I'm still so on the fence as to whether I should like throw this pedal and the T-shirt and these components in a box and send it to you or not. Like, do we need to like hold a seance and get a shaman to like go to Stonehenge and give the proper sacrifice so that I can get something delivered to you and it not end up being shipped back to me, mate?
I've got it figured out, mate. I've got it figured out. Send it to the military base, to the chief's mess. It'll definitely get to me then.
Okay.
Well, because my postman's not
after we get off this, send me the proper details so you're not getting like random bits of like women's underwear sent to you by our fans.
Yeah, my wife would love that. She wouldn't love that, by the way. I was, So I've got to tell this story. It's horrific. But oh God, sorry, mate.
I was going to say
tell the story that's going to get me in trouble.
You tell your story. No, tell the story. Get yourself in trouble. I was going to say let's get back to talking about building guitars, but this sounds more interesting.
So I was in Mombasa in Kenya, and I've been at sea for like a month, well, we've been away for like 8 months, but I was on deployment Infinity for a month, and I finally get ashore, get some Wi-Fi, get to phone the wife, and as I get on the phone to her to say hello, one of the lads paid this Kenyan whore to run with her top off and jump on my back saying, hello, Mr. Joey, or whatever, and jump on me just as it connected. And my wife just hung up, and I was like, how could you do that to me, mate? Anyway, she hates that guy.
With friends like that, I mean, you know.
Yeah. Well, he's actually had his papers raised. He's an officer now. He's a gentleman. He wasn't at the time. Yeah, anyway, you're right. Let's get back to Telecasters and putting together a Partscaster.
So,
I was so lucky with this. I bought the neck from America, the body from Canada, and I put them together, mate. And the fit was so good that I could hold it up without putting the screws in. It was just so lucky. I keep dinging it on the table, which I quite like.
Yeah, and that's a good point too. Like, you know, there's a lot of inexpensive parts components out there that the routing, you know, is less than optimal, and you're going to have to do a lot of creative kind of things in order to get your neck pocket fit just right. And that's one thing that if you like skimp on getting your neck pocket fit right and your neck angle, you know, you want to go either for like a dead flat, you know, to the body, you know, parallel, or like 1 degree tilt back on a Stratocaster or a Telecaster type guitar. A little bit more if you're building like a Les Paul type guitar or something with an arch top.
Oh yeah, it's there's a good angle back, but I had no choice, mate. This thing fit in one way and one way only. I was like, happy.
Well, so now, I mean, that being said,
I haven't strung it up yet, so it could all go wrong.
Well, have you like taken anything and looked at it from the side and like kind of evaluated like how the plane of the fingerboard is compared to the plane of the top of your guitar? Because that's important. You know what I'm saying?
But I feel like that might be something that I'm doing wrong.
Yeah. So I can see that you have it's tilted up. It looks like it's tilted up. I don't know. It's hard to say without, but
from the
body, just from what I can see, if the headstock if the headstock is at a level above the plane of the body, like if it's kind of angling up.
No, it's backbowed, mate.
Okay, so if that's what you want.
This video has got a very shallow sort of dip that way, and the next backbowed, which I would have thought it should be straight. But just rather than
it's one of those things that when putting a guitar like that together, especially, you know, since it's a new guitar that you're building, you know, if that neck pocket, you know, if they routed it out, you know, at the wrong kind of angle, and it tilts the neck, you're never going to be able to get the saddles adjusted low enough to get the action to a playable action. So you need to go and like adjust the neck tilt. Yeah. And you can do that several different ways depending on what you want to do. So, you know, that'll be one of those things
we'll find that out tomorrow,
when you string it up. Yeah. You know, now that you've got it bolted up and everything, but you know, now's the time too that you can kind of evaluate it.
I'm literally waiting for the ferrules. Yeah.
You're waiting for the ferrules for
the problem is I haven't got a big straight edge.
Oh yeah, that's what the next thing I was going to suggest is like
that's
straight
all
edges,
that's
you know.
So I've got an engineer steel rule, and that is it. But
man,
I'll see how it goes, mate.
You can get a machinist straight edge pretty cheap. Like, if you can find yourself a machinist like 18-inch straight edge somewhere for like, you know, 50 quid. I mean, you can do a lot with that. This is a notched one. This one it has notches so that it reads the fingerboard, and I like to adjust the neck dead flat.
I've seen that, mate.
Before I level the tops of the frets, so then when everything's under string tension, I know that I've got, you know, a level playing field, and then I can adjust it from there.
I've seen Paul from Milo's Guitars do that many fret jobs that I feel like I could do it myself. Obviously, it doesn't work like that, but you know what I mean.
Well, and too, like,
repeat. Uncle Dan's vintage vinyl. All right, Dan, how's it going? He says on a Partscaster he just did, he had to scrape out the neck pocket a bit because the neck was too high. That could quite possibly be the case on this one.
That can happen
above the body of the guitar. See,
And
I've
yeah,
got a
there are
question. If the neck
nominal.
is too high and I just adjust the saddles up, what is there a problem with that? Because I like the body to be away from the strings.
Well, so
do you know what I mean?
You can get like there's a a level of tolerance that's built into the design. You got to realize that the way that Leo Fender designed this guitar there was a lot of room for adjustment for things to get right into the zone, so that they could produce them by the millions like they did.
Yeah.
So but you can take things too far in one direction or the other. You can get it where you're putting too much strain on the screws that are adjusting the intonation length on your saddles. You can run out of like height, that kind of thing. So you basically have like these different areas that you can play with, and you can start playing around with millimeters here and there and get it dialed into exactly how you want it to be. But you don't have to get it dialed in so precisely like you would in acoustic guitar. Acoustic guitars are way less forgiving than something like a Telecaster. So
here's an interesting thing just come in. Joe and John, what do you use for neck pocket shims? It seems that people use card, etc. I've seen Coke cans as well. A guitar with miles of room at the octave.
I'll disappear for a second and go get what I use.
Mate,
I'll be right back. I'm going to go grab a secret weapon. I thought I had it already pre-staged, but I forgot to set it out.
For me, James, I've been really lucky. I've used Coke cans in the past, but mostly I've been lucky because every guitar that I put together, this is like my third Tele now. I built a couple of Strats as well. They've all just gone together and worked. So I've never really had that problem, if I'm being perfectly honest. And Craze Fandango says he used a business card. That's quite clever. Yeah, you could do that. As I say, in work to use shims for like gas turbines or machining stuff, what we used to do is cut up a Coke can and make shims out of that. Seems pretty easy. But this thing, I put the neck and the body together and I could pick it up and move it around like it was a guitar already, even without the bolts in. So I was quite lucky. And it does seem to be pretty straight. Now, the bridge holes were already drilled, so I didn't have to think about drilling them either. I'm just going to really hope that, as Dave Barry said before, when I put the strings through it, I can use them as a straight edge and try and get it all to marry up.
Of course, I can't find it. It's that secret of a weapon. Yeah. What it is an HVAC tape. Have you seen the silver foil tape that you would use to wrap around? Yeah, that you can cut it and you can put it in layers and you can precisely get just micro tilts to your neck, and it makes complete contact.
Very thin, but very thin,
and it's also reversible. I mean, this is one thing that I can't
super fucking sticky as well.
For lutherie is tape. Invest in tape. This is gaff tape. Gaff tape is great for lots of things. Binding tape.
If anyone's wondering, gaffer tape in the Navy is called Harry Black Maskers. So it's black masking tape,
and then this is what we call pH neutral premium black masking tape for doing painting and stuff like this. This $7 a roll, but it's worth its weight in gold, man. It does not react with finishes like the blue tape does. If you try and use blue tape on lacquer, it'll eat your lacquer up. This has an adhesive that will not destroy your lacquer finishes, so you can leave it on in a masking situation.
Oh, cool!
And it also gets a much more precise edge. I use this a lot when I'm doing pinstriping and for these kind of finishes. When I'm doing that sort of stuff, I'll use this as my masking tape because I can get a much cleaner edge. Yeah. So
that's cool.
also like learn your adhesives.
We've got a few comments coming, mate.
Yeah, and learn adhesives.
Chris Fandango says he used the business card. Yeah. Oh, he also says that he used it on the flying V that I sent him. I forgot all about that, mate. I meant to message you. I got that guitar off my uncle through my mum. I told my mum that I donated it. She was made up. She sent that message back to my uncle, who's also made up, and they requested to know how he's getting on. Is he still learning? Is this kid still going for it? So I'm really glad that went to a good home. It was a real beater. Like, it needed a lot of work doing to it, but the neck felt good. So yeah.
But
we've got that. James Cuff said he bought a cheap thing to sacrifice to learn.
And that is the best thing you can do. That's the best advice I ever got 30 years ago from my friend Billy G, the legend here in the area that, I'm kind of like taking up the work that he's now retired from doing. He said, buy a bunch of guitars that are cheap from pawn shops that are, just beaters, and go to town, have fun. Like, don't worry about whether you ruin them or not, and learn, because then, you'll be ready to work on somebody else's guitar, and you're not going to be as afraid because you've already made all these other mistakes on something that was a POS that you didn't care about. And in some cases, you might end up like, ended up with gold.
That's the same with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If anyone's interested in a Telecaster body, I've got one going spare. It's super light. I don't know how well it's cut or whatever. It probably needs a lot of work, but I bought it to do a video about painting a Telecaster body. I don't need to now because I've got this video coming out. So if anyone wants that, let me know. I could bring it to Brighton for someone, maybe, if they're coming to the Brighton show. Here's one. Jeffrey Shockley said, where'd you get the black tape from, John?
Okay, so
is it an auto body place?
It's not an auto body place where I get this from. I actually get it from art supply places. And a lot of the craft supply stores and hobby stores that I've seen it in, it's where they have the airbrushing supplies, because it's an acid-free masking tape, for use for that kind of thing. And it's so that you can do like multiple layers of masking on lacquered surfaces or, archival surfaces, that kind of thing, where you don't want to get any kind of contamination. So like, when you peel this tape off, then you can put a clear coat over without having to like, really like wipe any kind of adhesive residue off of it. But it's not as strong as other tapes,
cool. Makes sense.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where it's great for specific uses, but then other uses, like, it falls apart. But one of the things that I really like about it is because of its archival nature, you can use it in pickup making. How, like, when you wrap your pickup coil, there'll be a black paper tape wrapped around it. It's exactly that type of tape. That's the same type of tape.
Oh, yeah.
So I can buy this.
Is it true that black tape is like really hard to come by?
No, it's not.
Because didn't they?
No. This is it.
I thought that the black stuff they run out of the.
No, this is it.
From
it's
the 60s,
not that hard to come by.
Was,
yeah. No, it's a myth. Okay. Like, they still make it. It's this, and like, it's like I said, you gotta like find out what it's being used for now. Like, you can buy it, in rolls like this. Like, they sell these little tiny rolls of the black tape, like you're talking about. It's the exact same stuff. I've compared it A to B, and exact same paper material, exact same kind of adhesive. It's an archival acid-free adhesive so that it doesn't eat up your pickup wires. And that's why they used it to wrap your pickups in.
Yeah, and they're quite sensitive, aren't they?
Because pickups that were wrapped in this stuff, this deteriorates like your regular white masking tape, and the adhesive in it, it'll turn the coating of the wire into a powder, and then so, but this is, and they still make this. You just gotta know where to look for it.
Find it.
I imagine, yeah, you can find
Dan
stuff
Mincher
like
says
that
he's
at
looking
auto
forward to
body
Brighton.
stores.
Get in, mate. Yeah.
Is that,
like you said,
next
look
weekend?
outside the box. Definitely.
Is Brighton next weekend?
Yeah, it's the 5th. So
awesome.
I can't wait to. Yeah, the fifth. So Crazy Fandango, you couldn't do with a fifth Telecaster. You want to strap me? There's one over there. Let me see. I think I might have sold it actually. To be fair, he also says, "Hope to see you there, Daniel. Get Joe to point me out. Everyone coalesce at my stand, and we'll all just stand around drinking coffee, tea, whatever, and talking guitars. It'll be fantastic. That's all I go there for, is to stand around talking about shit that I like with everyone. It's fun. It really is a good show. Yeah.
So when you were
and James as well, if you're there. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, mate.
I came over to England like
John
25 years ago.
To come to England.
I came over 25 years ago at the turn of the millennium, like but that was then. We'll see. Like, I mean, it's one of those things where travel at this point, man, is getting to be harder and harder. Jeez. I didn't hear that. What? I think your audio is gone.
When you come to England, mate.
Oh yeah, okay.
Oh, is it? When you come to England, I was 15.
Yeah. Okay. That's what you were saying. You were 15 then, yeah. In 1999, 2000. I came to England in 1999 and 2000. It was 1999 the first time, and it was 2000 the second time, but it was within 10 days.
Crazy Fandango says, "I'll bring you some scrumpy cider you like, Joe." I absolutely love scrumpy. Like this, it's like non-fizzy, thick, goopy cider that like gets you pissed really quick. Fantastic. I love it. The one
nectar.
I like Old Rosie is the standard one you can buy everywhere. Yep, I like the Westerns ones as well. That vintage ciders, they're quite nice. I'm a cider drinker. What can I say? I've also seen the Weasels quite a few times in Plymouth. They're fantastic. What a band! Have you heard of the Weasels, John?
How do you spell it?
You know, I've got a brand new combine harvester. All of that.
Oh yeah.
WURZEL.
Yeah, the Wurzels.
Yeah, okay. Mate, they're still playing in Plymouth now. They're fucking fantastic. Yeah, great band. Yeah. So, have you got any plans to build any more guitars coming up, John, or are you just doing repair work at the minute?
I mean, now that I'm getting back into doing repair work, I'm also looking around at all the parts that I have left, and there's a few things that I'd like to put together, and it's just one of those things. Like, once you start building for other people, then you're like, well, I've got this, I can put this back together. And so I think it's going to be another rabbit hole that I'm going to go down. I've already been looking at this Telecaster thin line body, the mahogany back, and I'm trying to figure out what top I'm going to put on it and what I'm going to use for the the center beam and that sort of thing. And then I'm going through neck options, because I kind of had it all like laid out at one point, and a lot of the parts for it disappeared, as along with 60 or 70 other bodies that I was working on. They kind of like put a little bit of a damper on my guitar building days, is when everything I'd worked up for and had built up to that point got stolen. Yeah. So it was like, that's why I started building effects pedals instead. Is like I had more stuff to build effects pedals and guitars. Well, that's what the ladies say. Yeah. Well, that's it. As long as my grain's running in the right direction, as long as my grain's running in the right direction and I keep it, straight and narrow, then it's good. Oh, mate, I tell you what, mate, I can't wait to see what you build. It'll be interesting. As I say, you showed me a few bits of wood, and it's interesting stuff. Yeah, we were talking a little bit. Wood chopping is so addictive. Oh yeah, it's so bad. It is, and like I said, like even though I've been stripped down like from a lot of my tools, because I started with nothing. I started working with like basically some razor blades and a few sanding sticks and my eyeballs, and like kind of trusting my intuition, so like I'm comfortable with what I still have. And I've been actually finding a lot of my tools that I thought were gone, as I've been cleaning up things and like, kind of going through the madness that was, what was in my house whenever I cleaned it out. So.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So, and then also like having the shop that I'm working out of, like, you know, I don't want to drop any names, but there's a guy that I'm working on some guitars for that's working for a particularly like well-known Telecaster player, who's kind of based out of Nashville now.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, and so when he told me like this amp, you know, I told you, didn't I? I sent you the message about yeah. So yeah, you know who I'm talking about. Like
unbelievable,
yeah.
mate.
So like, you know, maybe we can get him on, but you know, this fellow, he's a little bit of a reclusive. He's a little bit of a reclusive kind of guy, but you know, he's also like one of those geniuses that, you know, people who know tone, like they seek out. You know, if people like RF like seek him out, then you know he's onto something.
Yeah, exactly, mate. Some people just have an ear for it, don't they? I imagine Eric Johnson's a lot like
well,
like
he actually goes
which way the light bulbs in a Fender amp.
Well, no, you know? This guy does like, I think he's like got some sort of techno shamanic rituals that he does or something, like the way he talks about certain things, and like, you know, he talks about things on a quantum level, like, well, you've got to make sure you get this because, you know, it does this, and like you get lost sometimes when he starts describing some of the modifications that he does, and you're like, okay, man, if you say so.
I just think it's brilliant, mate. It's like some people just have an ear for it. Like you can trust their ear and you know it's going to be good.
Yeah.
Whereas for me, I'm kind of tone deaf. I know what I like and I just build to that. And then, so like the Gibbons Tele that I did, I hated the sound of it. Like it was too twangy or whatever. And it really weren't my sort of thing. I think the roasted maple and the ash body, it just...
it probably was more of the pickups than anything else, though. Like, really, if something is too twangy,
even unplugged, mate. I put it unplugged next to the Melody Maker, and it sounded like very high-endy. Yeah, but the pickup was a Billy Gibbons, you know, the humbucker that Cream Tea does. It was one of them.
Yeah,
but it sounded with the pickup, it sounded just like it did unplugged. Like really, really twangy. And I don't know whether it was the roasted maple neck or I don't know what it was. Or actually, I had a Babbage bridge on it. So a Billy Gibbons signature Babbage bridge. So it's like high mass steel. Fucking hell.
There's some of the worst ones to try and adjust anything on.
I wanted to.
I mean, I have no idea why people.
There's like 10 fucking Allen bolts.
I'm working on one now. I'm working on a Telecaster. The Babbitt's bridge like comes on as the full contact hardware. But for my money, like the Goto is still full contact. It sounds better. It's easier to work on. Like I can remove the bridge without having to take the saddles off. Like I had to remove the bridge to put a new bridge pickup in this guitar, and I had to take 4 saddles off of a Babbitt's bridge. You know how hard it is to get them back exactly to get the right place. It's like Floyd Rose all over again. It's like, did you make this complicated?
Yeah, but
just to like create a market for people to charge more money to work on it. I mean, because like it's set up. I think it might have been the high mass of
the bridge that caused the issue. Yeah, it really,
I mean, it could be.
Aesthetically, though, it fit the Billy Gibbons thing.
It could be the alloys that they're using for the saddles too. Like when you start working with these like super lightweight, high ring alloys, kind of like same thing that Tone Pros did. You remember when Tone Pros was making these super lightweight ABR or whatever they were doing ABS ones and the tailpieces. They were doing the tailpieces and had the locking tailpiece post and all this, and they were using these certain alloys for their lightweight and their ring.
Yeah. So, very, very rarely do people come up with something that is good or better for a Fender
than we can already get.
Leo did.
Yeah, than what we can already get.
In my opinion, for like a Telecaster or whatever. Yeah.
I like what the Mastery company is doing with especially their Jazzmaster and their Jaguar bridges.
Yeah,
the bridge with the Mastery stuff. I've installed those on some vintage ones too for people, and they're incredible. Like
right.
this 59, I worked on a 59 Jazzmaster that I think was within the first, 100 that were ever made. And we put one of those on it, and
it's reversible as well, isn't it?
Do what now?
You don't have to, like, it fits in the shape of
exactly everything.
It's reversible, so like
everything drops in. You don't have to. Yeah, no modification.
You still have your vintage guitar.
Exactly, and it fixes all of the issues that,
if anything, you preserve
the Jazzmasters are notorious for. So,
yeah, it's interesting, mate. Yeah, I with my Tele, I just wanted everything to be as close to the vintage. I even for the string tree, I was asking you this off air actually, and we haven't got to it. With the string tree, I've got the 50s round single string tree.
The button.
But obviously I know it's a 60s guitar and it should have the little posty. Yeah. But I bought the button because I like the look of it. Is there a difference? Do you find a difference in them or?
Yeah, I do. And the difference is the button looks cooler. That's the difference.
It does, doesn't it? Really does.
If you're looking for a difference in your string tree, it's like as long as it's not like got sharp edges and cutting your strings and causing strings to break at your string tree, go for what looks right.
Well, I've got some nut sauce to go in there as well.
Hey, put some nut sauce on your tree and you're good to go. Shake the bushes, mate.
Well, I'll tell you what, the one thing that I've used more than anything else on this guitar is Monty's Relic Wax. It's a relic version of his instrument food. So it's like meant for bare wood or whatever. But I have aged the wood with it. I've done the fretboard. I've made the fretboard darker. I've buffed the whole guitar. I use T-cuts as like a cutting compound and my drill with a pad on it. And then I use the Relic Wax just to polish up the paintwork. They come up a tree. Yeah, I used it for everything.
So I love walnut oil. I love walnut oil. Yeah, walnut oil is a great thing to use. Shellac. Like I love the French polish, especially if you're trying to age something and make it, look yellow. I would highly recommend learning how to work with shellacs, if you want to get into relicing stuff. Or actually doing spot repairs too. And then let's see what else we were talking about. What you were talking about, some of the different things that for aging. I've gone through different phases where I've used different kinds of waxes. I've used brie wax. Brie wax is a pretty cool thing because you can kind of tin it and you can throw dirt into brie wax and like rub it on and you can actually get like some grime worked into it. So yeah, I mean, it's one of those things.
I've got an interesting question actually. Let me just grab. So, I don't know if you've ever watched. Have you watched Tone Twins before? Hugh Price. Two Welsh guys talk vintage guitars, and Hugh actually does a lot of vintage guitars. It sounds
familiar.
And aging and stuff.
Yeah, it sounds familiar.
So he writes a lot for Total Guitar and Guitarist Mag and stuff like that.
Okay.
So he did the Telecaster many years ago for an article on guitar.com. If anyone's interested in it, I'll send them a link to it. It's fantastic. It's maybe like 10 years ago. But to make the lacquer checking appear, he watered down some of this exact wood dye. It's Colron Jacobine wood dye. He watered that down and rubbed it on because it like got in the cracks, whatever. My cracks are shown through fine. I don't need it. But I was wondering if I was to get a bit of that and water it down and just get a Q-tip and put bits of that on and sand it onto the bare wood, would that help the pine? Because it says deep, rich, penetrating color for interior wood, enhances natural wood. I don't know. But I know Hugh Price has used it on aging the guitar, but he used it specifically for lacquer checking. Normally, what I used to do is the white vinegar and wire wool thing. You know that you mix them together, it dissolves, and you put that on. It oxidizes the the tannins. That
Yeah,
works
well,
great. But I had a bottle of
a
it,
lot
and
of
it's stinking, and I
yeah.
had it for years. And I think
I've used a lot
I've
of the
got rid of
different
it,
like
so.
aniline dyes, and like I've had different powdered dyes, you know, and also I've used a walnut hull. Have you ever seen like walnut hull dye, where they actually
Yeah.
take the hulls and, you know, turn it into a dye? That
No,
makes
no.
for some interesting stuff, because you can kind of
Right.
get it where you can make it like turn like grays and purples, and it kind of can replicate you know, some of that ashen wear that you get from something. I mean, I've done some relics where I'm actually like trying to replicate, you know, specific bar patterns, where this thing has been in these bars and it's been exposed to this much smoke, and this much liquor has been spilt on it, and this many, you know, cigarettes have been put in the headstock. And so like I get nerdy when I get to things like this, and I've actually like gone out and taken specific like dirt and filth and stuff, and I've taken like metal shavings and created like rust and other oxidized compounds and used those to replicate certain stains. So like when you start getting into that, like
So, Telecaster 52 says use iodine to tint maple necks, and John Pardo said that he can't tell you how much. What is it? I can't. How much does iodine tint? He wants to make a roasted maple board darker.
Yeah, I've never used
wood
iodine.
dye. Wood dye just make a mess.
Yeah, I don't know.
So if it was me, mate, and I had a roasted maple neck, is it painted or not? If it's not painted, go and get yourself some Monty's Relic Wax. Put it on. He says to leave it on for like 4 hours and buff it off. I left mine on at the beginning of the weekend. Cakes of it on the fretboard. Went to see Lincoln Park, come back, and then rubbed it all off. And
that's what I was thinking about. Like the wax.
So I'd imagine
like, when you said wax, like a lot of times too, whenever I'm like finishing and doing like a final buffing, I use something called Novus polish. I use Novus number 2 and number 3. It was designed for like plastic fairings on motorcycles and aircraft. So that it can like get it to be optically clear again for your aircraft fairing. So I mean, it removes fine scratches and finishes. Yeah. So that's a polish that a lot of people don't know about, but
have you?
It works on a lot of finishes like lacquers and polyurethanes. And
have you ever heard of a? Yeah. Have you ever heard of virtuoso polish? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I have heard of it.
Virtuoso polish. It used to come in like a black squirty thing. So I can't get it anymore. And I lent my bottle with a bit left in to my mate Bones. And if you're watching this, Bones, go fuck yourself, because he's still got it. And I've just finished this guitar and I couldn't polish it up.
Oh, no.
And I can't find it anywhere to buy more. I literally can't find it. Yeah. He'll be at Birmingham and I'm going to give him some shit for it. But there wasn't much left in a bottle, and he makes guitars, so he's probably used it all now. But I can't find it anywhere. Used to be able to get it on Amazon. I mean, it weren't cheap here in the UK. You have to ship it over. But
you ought to see if you can find Novus. It's Novus, or is the name of the polish.
Novus.
Yeah. And you know, I think the number 3 is the one that is like heavy scratch remover, and then the number 2 is like the fine scratch remover. And they make a number 1, but I never have to go beyond number 2. I use number 3 and number 2 all the time. And you can like buff it to a mirror shine. As a matter of fact, I'll show you a repair I did with some.
Oh, cool. I used T-cut to get rid of the scratches in mine. I've got like this green tinted T-cut, so I just put that on and buffed it up with the drill. Seemed to work absolutely fine. Here's a good one. Danish oil for your
Danish
neck.
oil. Yeah,
Danish oil is what they use on gun stocks, and it seems that it darkens that up. So that's a great one. Yeah. Well, I'd imagine that you want to apply a thin coat, see how it goes, and then.
True oil, Danish oil, is basically a varnish formula. It's a wiping varnish, and that's where the French polishing skills come in. If you knew how to use true oil properly and thin it and use the right kind of pad and the right kind of motion, and buff it out, you can get like that really deep, rich finish that you go for with things. But
I'm imagining it's the same process as I use on my toe caps for my #1 shoes. Use polish, buff it up in little circles with a bit of water or whatever, to bring it up to a shine.
Yep. So this is a neck that.
So what's the neck?
Well, it's a Telecaster copy. This is a Brazilian company, the Tagema guitar company, and the customer took the nut out. I'm making a new nut for it out of black horn, but when they removed the original bone nut, they took a chunk out of the finish, and so it's one of those UV cured finishes. To I don't know if you guys are familiar with UV cured finishes, but they're anathema to me. You can once they start running, you can take the thing off with your thumbnail. My friend James has a guitar shaped piece of finish because it just came right off the top from a Breedlove guitar when he was working for the Breedlove factory. But so anyway, when he took the nut out, a huge chunk of that came out, and I drop filled it, to color match it for this guitar would cost more than the guitar's worth, try and color match this on this kind of finish. But so I used a CA glue. I used a professional grade CA glue and created, levels and sanded it down. But, those Novus polishes are what I use to get it back to the buff shine. So, and they do it really fast. And you don't even need to use a mechanical buffer. I did this with hand, just with my hands and a little bit of elbow grease, for a spot. That's good. It also works really good on a mechanical buffer, but it comes in so handy for just touch-up repairs and little fuck-ups that you're going to do, especially when you're dealing with modern finishes and stuff like that. So
spray it all with nitro, ding the shit out of it, and then I'm happy.
Yeah, that's the way I look at it.
I don't do perfectly finished guitars.
Well, I mean, all my guitars
that bloody. I don't know how they managed to play the. Sorry, go on, mate. Yeah,
I was gonna say all my guitars
it never ages.
Yeah, all my guitars I take poly off if there's poly on it. I put shellac or lacquer on it, to replace the poly, and then I just let it wear in. I don't care about how perfect it is. I care about how it feels and the interface.
I mean, look at this, right? This is a poly guitar that's obviously yellowed and aged, but here where they played the finish of a bloody poly guitar. That's someone who's put some hours in there, but it's like a clear lacquer underneath the so they clear lacquered it, colored it, and then clear lacquered it. So it's just weird. Well, yeah, apparently that's what they did in the 70s.
Well, that's what they did in the 90s too. I mean, I've got a polyed guitar that I've relicked myself right here, and it did the same thing. There's multiple layers, it goes through the clear, through the color, into the clear, where I've played in into that. So and the thing is, they're dipping them too. These solid coats, they're not even sprayed on. I mean, have you seen how they would, go and dip into the vat and go along the line? That's the reason why, when you look in some of the body cavities, there's these drips. Well, there's these drips, going down in the pickup cavities, because they dipped the whole body in, pulled it out of the finish, and it's going along drying, and so you'll get these weird looking drips. You see the same thing. I tell you that's in the back of the.
The temptation when you get a drip on your guitar while you're spraying it, to spray more on and try and smooth it out is so fucking much, but it just never works.
Yes, I know. You're
just leave it sand it off when it's dry. But mate,
or the temptation to get some.
It's like trying to say no.
But, or the temptation to grab something like lacquer thinner or Cellusolve and if I hit it just right here, it's gonna flow out and it'll be perfect. And then, all your finish runs off in one big sheet. And you're like, no,
never does.
Never. Never. When you make a mistake,
except that it's there, let it dry.
Well, it's like when a bug, you know, when a bug flies in my finish, I'm like, let it dry in the finish. I'll come back with a razor blade and just boop, flick it off, and then I'll buff it out. It'll be fine.
So Jeffrey Shockley says the hydro dip and the cracked paint. Yeah, I've seen that. Goliath Effects.
Oh yeah,
does it
yeah,
on his
yeah.
pedals, so it's like a paint and then a top color where it like this bit. Yeah, but he also does another one where he sprays it one color and then the next color over the top. They don't mix together, and it like splits the paint, and the cracks have the original color.
Well, because he's using incompatible mediums like a water base and an oil base together. I've done that a lot with I've done that a lot in art. Where you can use watercolor and you can hit it with alcohol, and the alcohol will make the watercolor do weird things. But yeah,
Dave Barry's just hit the nail on the head. A fly always, every pedal batch I do, they come and land on the clear nitro coat. It must smell nice to them or something. Little fuckers.
Oh yeah,
it's just like flies, its last dying act is just to see me off by flying onto my pedal.
Fruit flies love nitro. They really do. Yeah.
But I have to let all my shit dry in my garden because I'm in this tiny, well, it's not a tiny workshop, but it's a lot smaller than, you know, I couldn't get a spray booth in here, for example. So they have to dry in the garden, and them little bastards, there's not a single fly in the world, and then all of a sudden just descend on.
Yep.
Yeah,
they all say it's a buffet.
Oh man. Yeah.
So when you were doing your neck mounting, you were talking about like doing the inserts. Did you do inserts in the back of your neck? So how did you
okay, so
how did you like that?
This is the fun bit.
Yeah, because that's one of those things. I've done that. And I've worked on guitars with them.
So these are traditionally wood screws. And I was buying my pickups from Monty's Guitars, and he does this like neck kit. So it's like a neck bolt kit. And what it is, if anyone's ever worked with a helicoil, it's like a threaded insert. So it's like a large circular screw with a hole in the middle, and basically the kit comes with a drill bit that's the right size and everything, and all you do is you drill your neck a certain amount in, and then you screw this bit in, and it's kind of the insert is threaded, so you can use a bolt instead of a wood screw to hold your neck together. Fantastic. But what I did on fucking camera as well is I went into autopilot and I drilled the body of the guitar for the inserts, fitted the inserts into the body, and then I went, oh shit, that's the wrong half. They're not meant to go in the body, they're meant to go in the neck. So I was literally on camera, just, oh fuck.
Oh, I love it.
It's going to be brilliant for the video. So if I
want to see how you did the workaround on that.
There's like big holes. But honestly, mate, I just left the holes there. They're only like 5 mil deep. I was like, fuck it. And the holes like the size of the screw head. Covered by that, don't care. And then I just put the inserts into the neck. Great little system, though. I would say I feel much more confident having the neck held on by these threaded inserts. It feels way sturdier than having the wood screws in there. They feel like they're going to pull out. I think he might have designed them for, for guitars that have had the neck on and off loads and it's fucked. Like the holes are fucked. So you just drill them out a little bit. But the thread on the insert is like
that's what toothpicks and super glue are for.
You can do that, but
it's like the thread is
a mechanical
insert.
Like
I know it's
so easy.
I think it's like a great idea for certain things. But it's also like if it's like your first guitar, it's a good way to make things go completely sideways. Like if you don't get your neck screw holes exactly set in the right place for your inserts, and you get your tilt left or right, I
wouldn't do it for the first guitar.
I would never put that in my first guitar, just so you know, as a caveat.
I think
that's like a intermediate level, level up 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th guitar. You can put those kind of things in, and so
really,
I wouldn't do that my first, second, third guitar.
Next guitar, I'd love to do the nut myself. I think that might be because this is a bone nut, but it was I paid like 50 quid on the neck, and they made a bone nut for it.
That's not bad.
I would like to do that.
50 quid for a bone.
My other guitars, the Gibsons have got the original now. Yeah, but you had to buy the neck as well, so it's not like they would sell you the nut. It was you've bought the neck, so you can pay. If anyone's interested in where I got this neck from, it's a company. I think it's American Vintage. No, American Relic Vintage or something like that. Anyway, they're on Instagram, not Instagram.
Yeah, we can maybe,
and I'll happily link
maybe put a
shop.
Yeah, I was going to say
they do
maybe
a couple
put a
of
link in
different
the
types of neck.
description.
A pin comment. Yeah, I'll pin a comment.
Yeah,
but they do like all the different all part sizes, basically with different fret wire and stuff, and some of them have the proper inlays, and some of them have the newer, like the 70s inlays or whatever, where they switch to Paloid or whatever it was. Yeah, great company. I've got to say, although what they did do that I didn't like, and I've got to say, I do say it in the video, they take this rosewood neck, and now you've seen Brazilian rosewood where some of the pores are just a bit longer, or like, you can notice the pores a bit more. They've tried to elongate the pores in a lot of places and on the base and on the sides to make it look like Brazilian rosewood. The ones they've done are great, but they've just done too much of it. It doesn't look like Brazilian rosewood. If they'd have done a little bit less, it would have looked better to me.
I don't know. Like,
interesting.
I'm one of those people.
And maybe maybe the wood was like that. I don't know. But
yeah, I mean, it could be too. Like there are some rosewood,
so I expect it to be.
There are some rosewood substitutes that they use that have that same kind of pore structure. So it might not be something they did intentionally. It might just be, that particular kind of Dalbergia species that they're using.
This is I went on the All Parts website and the forums and stuff, so I can't see any reference to it anywhere else. I would think someone may have mentioned it, said it, or questioned it in the past. In fact, I'm lying. I never. ChatGPT did. Yeah, it's much more reliable than Joe. But yeah, I've got to say, I'm really happy with how it turned out, and I think I'm most happy with the fact that the body was super lightweight, and I got to finish it myself.
Yeah. The fact
it needs
that
another buff.
You did it
after I've got the string pedals in it.
Well, and two, on some of the
I did the proper silver and then clear red.
On some of the vintage Telecasters that I've worked on, the string ferrules, and we're talking like ones from the 50s. They actually had put like a little bit of putty in there and mashed the string ferrules in so they would stay in place, because they drilled the holes oversized with the idea that the finish was going to like fill up some of the cavity. And so if the string ferrules didn't like fit in, and that's why they went to the threaded ones, or not the threaded ones,
they would
grooved ones,
insert ones that dig in.
Yeah.
I brought like a flat set now that I think they're 9.5 mil, the new set. And actually, I don't know why I haven't done this, but I haven't actually measured the diameter of the hole. I'm sat here with a ruler in front of me. But the ones that I've got now are 8.3 millimeters, and they just slide in. Yep. So the hole is 9.5 millimeters.
Well, and then you also
hopefully it'll just fit.
Yeah, and then you also have like ones that have like a shelf to them, ones that were designed to like be like above the body, others that are designed to be flush mount, like flush with the body. So the ones I've got on order are flush mount, but the ones that I bought originally for the Goto ones, which are they've like got a little lip at the top, they sit on top, and they've got the threaded barrel, then, if you like. A lot of times those would be countersunk. You would drill two different diameter holes. You drill the smaller hole as your pilot hole, and you'd like go in and drill the countersink for that to go flush. Yeah. But
I have actually got one other question. What do people think about these?
What are those?
Have you much experience
the ashtray
with these?
cover.
It's the bridge cover from a Telecaster.
Yeah. Most people take them off.
My plan, I weren't going to have it fitted. My plan was to, My plan was to put it on and then hit it with a hammer to leave a mark around it. So then it aged like the originals.
So,
but now that I've aged the guitar and stuff, I'm kind of I'm skeptical about doing it because you can't go back.
You
know.
Yeah, I mean.
So I feel like I just bought that for nothing. No.
You know.
Yeah.
I really, you know,
it is what it is, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't understand like anything beneficial of using one other than like,
you
know, like maybe giving your hand a place to rest.
No, it's definitely not. I mean,
yeah.
Or just having it with your vintage strap because that means that
because none of the
got it.
Yeah. None of the players that I've ever seen, like, you know, play a guitar with it on. I've never seen a player that, you know, has that installed on their guitar or their Strat or their Tele when they're playing it.
And to be fair, Bandit Cuba hits the nail on the head there. If you're palm muting, just gets in the way.
It really
make playing impossible.
There's a reason why you can
just
find
like the original Gold Top, the 52, with it was understrung.
Yeah, it's why you can find a lot of those original ashtray covers in almost mint condition because everybody took them off and threw them in the case.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I bought it just so that I could put it on, hit it with a hammer, and leave the mark around there. You know, like you see some of the old guitars.
Oh yeah, like it had been, you know, like closed on the case.
I don't know. Yeah, the problem is you can't go back if I do it, and I don't like it. I can't go back to this state, so I'm like, probably not the best thing to do. Yeah. I think in the comments someone said that they wanted to spec out a 70s CBS Strat, like the big headstock and stuff. Don't spec one out. Come to Brighton and buy mine. I've got one.
I was going to say, there you go. He's got one spec'd out.
To be fair though,
go.
price wise, my Tele, this cost a fair old bit of money because I went for like, if I could choose something that was high end, I chose it. You know. Yeah. So I think the neck ended up being like 400 quid because the you know, and the body was like 350 quid. So before you start, you're getting on, you know, fair old bit of change there.
And that's before you even finish the body.
You get what you pay for a lot of the time.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
so the lacquer was about 100 quid because you know, there's a lot of lacquer.
Yep. And a lot of time, but you know, then
how much would the refinish cost?
Oh man, like, you know, if you were taking it to the guy that I would take it to get that kind of finish done, it'd be like $800 or $900 just to finish it.
Yeah, see, no way. With that said, if anyone wants to buy the spare Telecaster body I'm happy to finish it in Sonic Blue for much less than that. And I say Sonic Blue because it's the only color I've got left. That's Nitro. The minute I'm so low on paint.
Well, I mean, it would be a lot cheaper. It'd be a lot
just like
cheaper.
Right through it all.
Yeah, but like a candy apple, like it'd be $800, $900 easy. You know, for a professional lacquer finisher I know.
You've got two different colors, haven't you?
Three.
You got the Inca Silver and then the clear lacquer.
He would actually probably use like a bronze, a gold bronze, if you want a true candy apple.
Yeah,
like the old ones when you wear them out, it's not silver. It's the really old ones when it wears out, you see gold. You don't see silver. The old ones,
There's 3 for sale on it. There's 3 for sale now on UK Reverb. One's got silver underneath, one's got gold, and one's got the red, the gold, the red, the gold, the red, the gold. So it's always like they repainted it 3 times.
I've seen that done. I did a bit
of Googling. Apparently, there was a batch.
Well, and also
there was a batch of them, so it's the same color, but they went over it like 3 times. Mad.
I've worked on one that was like an original candy apple red from Fender, but as it wore through, you can tell that they took one of their Sunburst guitars off the line and just finished over it candy apple red because somebody ordered a custom color and they just like
did that all the time. Yeah, they probably pick one with the worst grain because you don't see the grain through it. And
something that had a big knot in it or something like that. Yeah.
Well, that's another interesting thing. in the sun and in certain light, I can still see the grain through the finish, even though I put. You can't see it now inside, but like in the light, you can sort of hold it in a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like on some gold tops, you can see the flame through them.
That's one of the cool things about this Telecaster that I'm working on too. It's got a butterscotch blonde finish on it, but it's a pine body and it's got a knot in it. And when you look at it in certain lights, you can see the knot. But the unfortunate thing is the pick guard covers the knot. So whenever I put it back together and the pick guard's on it, the knot's going to be hidden. But while I'm working on it, I'm looking at it. I'm like, man, this is so cool because there's this big knot and you can see the line that runs up through, but the pick guard perfectly covers it. So you'll never know it's there. I think I lost Joe again. He's frozen up there. Yep. Well, let me look through the comments here. Need a trim, Joe, from John Pardo. Like a tremolo for the Telecaster. I would recommend like the Vibramate Telecaster Bigsby mounting system if you want to put a trim on a Tele. I'm a big fan of a Bigsby anyway. And let's see. Can somebody put 20 pence into Joe? Yeah, Joe's meter ran out. I think we might have to be winding down Ferrex because I don't know. He was having a hard time with his internet and he had to switch to his phone, so he might have run out of battery, which I might be getting ready to do as well because my battery will only last for a couple hours these days, and we've been live for 2 hours and 16 minutes, and I was on the phone for a little while before that. So if Joe doesn't come back here in the next little bit, I guess we can wrap it up. And also feel free to like send any questions or any ideas that you have to either Joe or me on our Instagram accounts. I'm John Mulholland 777 on Instagram, and he is, of course, Hello Sailor Effects Official on Instagram. And let's see. Oh, and Daniel's asking what happened to the case. Well, basically, I got it laid out, and then I had a different idea of how I wanted to lay it out. I originally was going to lay it out like the one that I built for Simon, but I'm thinking I don't want to make the exact same control layout twice in a row. I want it to look different. So that's what happened. Before I drilled holes that I couldn't undrill, I wanted to look at how the knobs looked. And I was actually thinking of like taking a vote from people on the show to see what they thought, but we got sidetracked. I thought maybe we were going to get into a little bit different terrain, but as soon as Joe told me that he finished the body himself, like I went into complete nerd mode. So see, Bandit Cuber says, I've used a certain car paint I get at a local shop from our purple JDM kit. I did, and it turned out great. Same brand for the Tele. Yeah, automotive paints, a lot of the PPG products and stuff like that, they're great, especially for solid colors. And, you can get all the different solvents and everything right there. Here in the States, I like to go to Sherwin-Williams and get stuff from them. They're one of the few paint companies here in the U.S. that still stocks lacquer and lacquer thinner. And then let's see. Well, I guess we've lost Joe, guys. So hopefully that'll wet your whistle a little bit for building guitars and maybe create some dialogue and some ideas. I highly recommend building a guitar for yourself or getting something that's cheap and just modifying it. Just because I like to do all kinds of stuff like that. So you can take my recommendations for what they are. And I guess I'll say goodbye for Joe, for Hello Sailor Effects. And I'm John Mulholland, Space Wolf. And glad you guys could join us on this June 30th. So cheers.